كأني على رؤوسكم الطير. وبعد الهدوء للعاصفة.
تصير عاصفة بعد شوية يا دكتور.
Good evening, everyone who has joined. We see the virtual room is starting to fill up, so maybe we'll just give it 1 or 2 minutes for the others to join, and we're going to start shortly. Okay, I think we're ready to start. Good evening, everyone. A warm welcome to all attendees, members of the Energy Institute Young Professionals Network community, as well as Emirati Engineers Abroad, as well as the friends of organizations and other professionals working in the energy sector and beyond. We are going to kick off with Trevor Stodbriggs, the Managing Director of the Energy Institute in the Middle East, with his opening remarks. Over to you, Trevor.
Thank you very much, Piotr, and welcome to everyone who's on the webinar tonight. And thank you. We realize it is late for some people, but as we're in the Middle East and it is the holy month of Ramadan, we wanted to make sure that everyone could have their iftar and be settled and happy before we started this tonight. So welcome to all of you. We're looking forward to a fantastic discussion on talent and competency development for the future engineers and energy practitioners. We've got some great moderators and some great, fantastic panelists, and I'll hand you back to Piotr to introduce the people. Thank you very much. I'll speak to you at the very, very end. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Trevor. And again, a warm welcome to those who have joined in the past few minutes. We would like to start off with just telling you a little bit more about the Energy Institute and our Young Professionals Network branch, followed by an introduction to Emirati Engineers Abroad organization. And then in the next few minutes, we'll hand it over to our moderators, Dr. Wada Khanem and Dr. Hanim Kashwani, to begin the discussion. So with that, the Energy Institute is a professional body for professionals working in the energy industry globally. We have over 20,000 members across the world. Our main branches are in the UK, Middle East, in Africa and Nigeria, as well as in the further east in Malaysia, Singapore, and many other. However, our members are really scattered across the world. If I can have the next slide, please. So what do we do? So the Energy Institute is a hub for professional development, which comes very multifaceted. We provide best practice in the energy industry. We share extensive amounts of knowledge through online publications, as well as we help professionals in the energy industry develop their skills via a range of training programs, events, networking sessions, webinars such as this one that we are holding today. And we, as the Young Professionals Network, we are a branch of the Energy Institute in the Middle East. In terms of our local representatives, you just heard from Trevor Stodbriggs, who's the managing director of the Energy Institute in the Middle East. Our honorary chairman is Dr. Wada Khanem, one of the moderators of today's session. in terms of the representatives from the Young Professionals Network, it's myself. My name is Piotr Konopka. I'm a committee member. I'm also a managing consultant with Guidehouse, a strategy consulting firm in the region, and Shahta Altaya, who's my fellow committee member, as well as a senior consultant with an Ernst & Young climate change and sustainability services team in Dubai. And with that, I will hand over to Shahta to focus a little bit more on the Young Professionals Network itself and tell you about our past activities and what we have planned for the future, and why we would strongly encourage any young professionals in the energy industry to join us, to become a part of the organization. Over to you, Shahta.
Thanks, Piotr. So as Piotr was telling us more about the Young Professionals Network, it's part of the Energy Institute. We are a hub for tomorrow's energy leaders, and our mission is basically to provide a platform for young professionals who come from a cross-discipline and from diverse backgrounds from the energy sector, but also connecting to other sectors as well, who are interested to discuss key issues and key energy discussions. The Middle East YPN branch was set up in 2019. And again, we're part of a wider network of branches around the world. And this is what we've been focusing on over the past period, basically the development of our YPN network and members as well, trying to grow the scale and impact of the network and support our members throughout their career development journey. We're also looking to collaborate with some important partners, such as key organizations and corporate companies, as well as learning affiliates and educational institutes who can support our members, but also benefit from the wide range of activities that we provide. And all of that is basically to ensure the prosperity of the network as well as our members. You can see on the right side, we have a range of activities and events that we've been offering our members, starting with speaker events such as the one we're holding today, basically a panel discussion with key insights from energy leaders in the sector. Also networking sessions and events where young professionals can network with each other, expand their professional networks, and meet up with like-minded individuals to discuss key issues. We also support our members with their professional development journeys, whether that's through getting a chartered status or through the knowledge sharing platforms that we have and the thought leadership that we have on our website. We also look to have a bit more of site visits just to have a variety of learning experiences and more of a hands-on experience for our members. We're also looking to roll out a mentorship program in collaboration with the Energy Institute's headquarters, just to provide more support for members. Finally, social dinners and gatherings where young professionals can discuss ideas together and also kind of collaborate with the wider community of the Energy Institute Middle East branch and get exposure to other professionals in the field as well. This is a snapshot of some of the events and activities that we've been having over the last 6 months or so, starting with speaker events on how young professionals can shape the energy industry in the Middle East and how you can contribute to start your journey, but also more of hands-on workshops and discussions on reflective learning and how you can develop yourself in your learning journey as well. And ever since the past couple of months with the global pandemic and the current situation, we've switched on to online webinars to support all of our members and add value to them. So we had a webinar on sustainability and the future of engineers and practitioners in the energy industry, and also a global webinar where we collaborated with other young professional networks in Malaysia, in Nigeria, and as well, in order to bring kind of a global perspective on COVID-19 and whether that poses a threat or an opportunity for the global climate agenda. We also have a number of exciting events and activities planned for after the situation settles down. For now, we're going to be holding webinars and online speaker discussions, but we will also be rolling out site visits, social gatherings and workshops in the future as well. Of course, today we're joined by some members from universities and probably students, so we will be also following up on that and holding more university events just to bring more value to students and let them know about our activities so they can participate in them. We're also looking to have some exposure to some of the Energy Institute's global initiatives, such as the Generation 2050 initiative, which will be focusing more on sustainability and climate change. And we hope to see a lot of you in some of our future events as well. Please feel free to get in touch if you have any specific requests, or if you'd like to learn more about what we do and participate in some of our future activities as well. And now I'll hand over to our colleague Ahmed from Emirati Engineers Abroad to tell us a bit more about the wonderful work that they've been doing. Over to you.
Thank you for attending this webinar and a warm welcome to you all. I am Ahmed Alatar, founder of the Emirati Engineers Abroad Society. Allow us to give a brief introduction to our society. Could I have the next slide, please? So the EEA is a society that brought together Emirati engineering students who study abroad, usually through one of several scholarship programs offered in the UAE. We envision our society to serve as a social and a professional hub for Emirati engineering students to network, collaborate, and learn, helping them to gain experience and further develop their skills. The idea of having such a society dates back to early last year, when it was a simple idea on a drawing board. By the mid of last year, we launched our social media platforms like our Instagram page and our WhatsApp group. So please follow us on our Instagram page at Emirati Engineers Abroad. The EEA started small with only 5 members. As of today, we have almost 150 members from over 30 universities in both the UK and US. Some of our engineer members are from some of the world's elitist universities, such as Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial College, and Columbia University, and many others as well. Our target is to bring together all 5,000 or so Emirati engineering students abroad under one tree, the EEA. In our society, we offer our members several programs through our ENGWATS, WATS standing for workshops and talks. Our engineers learn about engineering professionalism, programming, and skills needed to succeed in today's market. Through our ENG projects, we offer our students a chance to engage in real-world problems and come up with engineered solutions. So our current project, for example, is about how to devise an artificially intelligent algorithm that can determine whether a person is wearing a face mask or not in an attempt to mitigate this outbreak. Applications of this system will be to conduct automatic checks at supermarkets and mall entrances. We also offer our students mentorship, in which our volunteering PhD experts are very happy to provide guidance and support. Lastly, we aim to host several events that range from hackathons and summits to social gatherings and networking sessions. Today's webinar is done in collaboration with the Energy Institute, a relationship that will hopefully be perpetual and inshallah grow to a fruitful one. Thank you once again, and I will hand over the mic.
Thank you very much, Ahmed. With that, we are ready to begin the debate. So I'll hand over to Dr. Wadakanem and Dr.
Thank you very much.
to give their opening remarks and begin the debate.
Yeah, thank you very much. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wassalatu wassalam ala Sayyidina Muhammad Ashraf al-Mursaleen. Ramadan Kareem to everyone, whatever is left of it, and may you have a blessed last 10 days of Ramadan. My name is Dr. Wadah Ghanem Al-Hashimi. I am currently the honorary chairman for the Energy Institute here in the Middle East. I also sit on the Energy Institute's Council. It's really a pleasure and honor for me to be co-moderating this session tonight on talent and competency development for future engineers and energy practitioners. And I'm very, very privileged to have such an esteemed panel who I'll introduce in a minute. Really, the whole purpose, to set some context for this webinar tonight, is looking as the world starts to move from really the shock of the disruption of the COVID-19 pandemic and starts to focus on recovery, a little bit trying to really now focus on recovery. There's a greater need to better understand the potential new realities that will surely change this world of work as we know it. So as countries accelerate their transformation towards digitization and creating new jobs, the world is also starting to come to the realization that there'll be the inevitable loss of certain types of jobs. So certain jobs will slowly start to disappear. However, also new jobs are going to appear. So with this context in mind, and because of the collaboration between the Energy Institute YPN and the EEA, two great presentations that they have made. We discussed with them about putting this webinar together regarding talent competency development for the future. So really looking at talent management competency development, looking at using or hosting a panel of really four great thought leaders and of both academic and vocational educationalists in this field, and to share their thoughts really and insights on the topic. The discussion today should focus really on the importance of preparing engineers and professionals for the future skill and competency requirements, and the significant role of new academic industrialism. Before I hand over just to Dr. Rana, my co-moderator, to give a few opening thoughts on this webinar before we start asking the questions of the panelists, I'd like to say that in the last couple of weeks, a lot of governments, including the UAE government, has started talking about life after COVID and the focus on the skilling and using digitization, using technology, using so many different kinds of things. And one of the most interesting points that I'm going to be looking forward to hearing from the panelists today is really how is this going to change the way that that education and vocational training, what changes are going to happen to them. And so I look forward to co-moderating this panel. So thank you very much for joining us again tonight. I hope you're going to enjoy the panel discussions. And I hand over to Dr. Ahmed to just give a few opening words. Tafadhal, Dr.
Thank you, Dr. Wadah. Good evening, everybody, and it's such an honor to have you and have such elite panel members. And as Dr. Wadah said, today the main goal is of this webinar to know how we can react to the era after COVID-19. So if I may quote His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid recently, 2 days ago, he tweeted that the world will be different after COVID-19. And as you know, that engineering play a very vital and critical role in the all mankind history. So as an engineer, how we can be prepared, and as an engineer, how we can ensure that we have the development cycle is continuous in the mankind. So today we have the people from academia and industry, and I totally believe that collaboration between academia and industry is the key to ensure the competency and the development of our future. So as you can see, we have people that have mixed experience between academia and industry. So I hope you enjoy tonight's webinar, and I'm looking to be part of it. Thank you. Back to you, Dr. Wadah.
Shukran, Dr. Anam. So let me, without any further ado, let me firstly introduce to you very quickly the panelists for tonight. Firstly, we have Professor Abdullah Al-Shamsi, who is the Vice Chancellor of the British University in Dubai. We have Dr. Isa Al-Bastaki, who is the President of the University of Dubai. We have Dr. Yusuf Al-Assaf, the President of the Rochester Institute of Technology here in Dubai. And we also have Dr. Sabih Kashif, who is the Head of Engineering of the Hyperloop TT here in the UAE. So we have a really great panel, and as I said, I'm looking forward to hearing their views. So let me start, with you, Dr. Yusuf, perhaps. With the fast changes that are happening today with the COVID-19 situation in the world, would you describe this more as an accelerator? This pandemic has become an accelerator, or is it a sort of a disruption era that we're seeing today?
Thank you, Dr. Wadah, and good evening to everyone. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to join this webinar. Actually, let me start with really doing what is really needed for the future. We have noticed that Industry 4 and the using of technology, digitalization was changing all the job landscapes, and many of the jobs would have been disappeared and replaced with other jobs. And universities, they had to find ways in order to change what they deliver in order to cope for that. And universities, they started doing some of that. Depends on the faculty, but generally many universities in the world, they started adapting to new ways of teaching in order to take advantage of this technology and adapt to the future. For example, using open resources in their curricula, using active learning, predictive learning, mobile application, XR for teaching and learning, gamification for some of the learning, and adaptive learning and others. But if you look at the percentage, you will find, for example, 20% of the delivery was done in this new modern way, but the rest is still the classical way. And faculty, usually they were the obstacle for really doing these things. So, but we were going towards using technology and changing what we deliver to students in order to make them ready for the future. And suddenly COVID-19 came. COVID-19 pushed everyone into a corner where they had really to go and adapt their teaching to focus online education. They went home and they start using online education just only to accommodate the teaching and finish the semesters. But actually without much thinking about what else can we do in order to prepare the future. So it was a reaction to a push that we have to adapt with. But definitely this push has really made people like accelerating what they have been experimenting. So if you had faculty, they were reluctant to use online in their education, now they have to. And suddenly they discover that they are out of their comfort zone, and they discover there are good things come out of it. And some of them, they start adapting it, even liking it. Although actually when we started, there was too much excitement, but nowadays you could feel among the students, among the faculty, they are getting tired and maybe they would like some sort of a hybrid combination. But the long story short, faculty and students, they found actually this has accelerated their thinking that there is benefits and good things in adapting technology in their learning. However, we need to be very careful. If somebody pushes you to do something, maybe whatever you conclude out of this, maybe this is not the right thing for the future. You need some sort of a sustainable, agreed upon, beneficial way of doing business. And usually this comes not from a push, it comes from your gradual thinking into the future. Now, but at the same time, it is disruptive. And let me tell you, a disruptive could be like this. For example, big companies, technical companies, maybe they will join universities. So maybe you could find, maybe in the future, Harvard join Google and they create a university where Google can use online education, while actually the big university, it goes for certification and doing this lab experiments and so on. If this really happens, where big companies actually, they join good universities and they change the landscape of education, this will be really disruptive. And you will find many universities, they will not be good, they will not exist, or maybe with time they will disappear, because the students now, they can afford these big universities and they will find more relevant to the jobs. And suddenly you will find big giants companies, the technical companies, they care about their KPI, their financial statement, and they increase the revenue. The big universities, they have more access to people. And the impact actually of this combination could be good, because you are teaching students at good universities with the future. I think that will be disruptive, and many universities, they have to fix their delivery by various things maybe we can discuss later. But if that happens, that will be really disruptive to the landscape. But if that doesn't happen, it will be just only an accelerator and maybe testing things as we move on. What do we use out of this COVID-19 push in order to improve what we are giving into the future? So to answer your question, Dr. Waddah, it is accelerating what we have been doing, but at the same time, it could be disruptive, but we have to wait until we see what will happen after COVID-19 and how the companies, they would react to this.
Yes.
It is not only education, it's the economy. It is the economy and education, they work together. So sometimes economy dictates actually how education would move into the future.
So this is very interesting. So you're saying that two thoughts really I take from what you say. So there's a gradual transformation which is required so that effectively we're not bullied into having to adopt transformation systems and building an infrastructure in a rushed way, and it should be well thought out. But I mean, in reality, a lot of this technology and the infrastructure was around. I mean, the government of the UAE has been spending a lot of time and resources on building this infrastructure, but there was hesitation for people to move that way. So the real question, I think, for us today is, you said that economically it might drive things. You're going to have some maybe mergers between big universities and big companies that are going to basically graduate people exactly ready to sort of take on the world of work as it's going to transform into. But so what will be, you think, the factor that will govern that speed of that change? How fast are these academic institutions going to move under these circumstances? Is it going to depend on how long the COVID stays around, or is it going to depend on, or has the accelerator already started?
Well, I think the accelerator already has started, and the COVID opened the eyes of the people in the economy and big universities and big companies to an opportunity which maybe, I don't know whether they have thought of it, but now that opened their eyes. Now, I don't think they will wait for COVID-19 to end up. They will start immediately thinking about this. And actually, if you read, you will find some of the big universities already, they are integrating with big companies in order to test the water and what's going to be. We have their own education system now. It doesn't have any certification or accreditation.
We are losing you.
Which is really still.
We didn't hear it. We're losing you.
Doctor.
So maybe they will go to the other to the universities. Look, we will help you in this, but you grant us.
Dr. Yusuf, we are losing you on the mic. We cannot hear you. Dr. Yusuf, can you hear us?
He's gone.
Okay.
He'll come back, I think.
I was disconnected for a reason.
I think
I am back. I'm back actually.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Now.
Okay. شكرا دكتور. شكرا دكتور يوسف. غانم.
Dr. Waddah, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. Thank you very much, Dr. Yusuf. Allah يحفظك.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Yusuf, for your really very insightful thoughts. And this is lead me to go to about the education sector. Since I'm working in the education sector, if I may ask Professor Abdullah Shamsi, that from education perspective, Professor, in general, from holistic view, what do you think the most beneficial things happen in the online learning, and in the future and the current, what is the most challenging obstacles maybe, or the challenge in general that we are facing in the online learning? So from education perspective, how we can see the benefit and the challenge on the e-learning or the blending learning that we are practicing now? Professor Abdullah, do you hear me?
Professor Abdullah, you are on mute.
Yes. Okay. Okay, I said thank you, Dr. Ghanem, and thank you, Dr. Waddah, for this, and very pleased to be among friends and colleagues as well. Ramadan Kareem to all of you. Very interesting times that we are passing through now. and the impact of that on education institutions is actually clear and apparent. But when we come to think of this situation, actually, we need to separate to some extent between what we call online teaching and online learning, more or less, and education. Universities throughout the previous years have been moving to online learning in one way or the other. All of our learning management systems are actually online. All of our student information systems are online. Libraries are now mostly online. The only thing that was pending was the teaching, actually, with the human-to-human knowledge transfer. That was in many instances was done through face-to-face. Yes, there are open universities. There are a lot of other universities that offer online education in full. But this COVID actually drove everyone. So if I mention the benefits of this, it simply drove everyone to experience now the online teaching in a way never done before. So when we were, planning to move from face-to-face delivery to online, we were thinking about how to do it. The reality was it was simple. It wasn't very difficult to do it. We moved into that. Most of our services are actually online. All we did is we moved the delivery now from being face-to-face to being online. But is that something sustainable, or is that going to continue for a long time? Well, there are some doubts on that. We will learn from this experience. We will use some of the elements that we are doing now for the long run. But I do not think that universities, or most of the universities, will move totally in that direction. There are a lot of things that needs to be taken into account. And if I may just mention some of these, yes, online education is flexible, it's convenient to people sitting at the comfort of your home and connecting to the professor through online platforms and so on. Very convenient. But there are other issues that needs to be taken into account. One of these issues is actually the student life. There is a lack of proper student life for students when they do things just barely online. And we all know that one of the most important elements in a university setting is that out of a class and in a class student life, the interaction between students themselves, and how they grow and they learn from the experience of each other and supporting each other face to face. With online, there would be some kind of interaction between students, but not in the same way. Certainly not in the same way. We also notice that the students feel isolated when they go online. They feel sitting in their own room, not interacting with somebody beside them, and sometimes they lose the motivation. So their motivation actually becomes an issue, and you see them, okay, turning the camera off, muting the mic, going for a drink here and there, and coming back. So the technical issues, I think, is manageable. The bandwidth and all of the technical other issues is manageable. The other issues especially with young students in their undergraduate studies, say 18, 19, 20 years of age, how you keep them motivated on the long. That's important. And with online, you lose that. So I think the future would be, yes, we will continue to develop online materials. We will continue to get students to submit their assignments and their homework on online, but face-to-face will continue to be a very significant element, especially in assessments and interaction and in many different ways. So yeah, things moving that way, but that human face-to-face thing will continue to be there. It has been there for thousands of years, and it will continue to be there for quite a time to come as well.
Thanks a lot, Professor Abdullah. So it's really nice, insightful. So as you said that e-learning has been there in the academia, but the real challenge is how to ensure the sustainability. And the technical issue is not the real challenge in the keeping the sustainability of e-learning. It is the cultural aspect. For example, as you mentioned, the student life. So that's really very insightful. And it moved me to go to now to shift from academia to the industry. And if I may ask Dr. Sabih about, Dr. Sabih as a chairman of ICE and as the head of engineering in Hyperloop, how you can see the opportunity now in this time with the e-learning, with the professional development, and with the mixing with the academia? And what do you think generally about it?
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be part of this distinguished panel, and I'm pleased to talk to you. I mean, it's always there is a close and very strong link between academia and the professional institutions. On the professional institutions, as you know, we develop people for already been said what the Energy Institute, as Civil Engineering Institute, we do the similar thing to create future professional engineers. The current situation is give us different perspective on the way we deliver our training, the way we assess our future chartered engineers. It also give us the opportunity to think on how we, as professional engineers, how we deliver the work to our client as well. We are, as a human, we always reluctant to do things only if we are pushed. And I think it's already been touched upon this with the COVID-19. It's basically accelerated the way we're going to do business in future. Some of the stuff, it's already been done. For instance, we've been doing the distant learning. We've been doing the remote reviews. Basically, we're doing the examiner sitting in London and the future chartered engineers somewhere around the globe. But this is not being done on a very large scale. It's on individual basis. With the COVID-19, basically we had to cancel. We normally held our reviews during spring and autumn. And with the COVID-19, we had to cancel all our reviews globally because reviewers cannot travel, and we don't have the possibility of arranging it other way. And now it's decision being taken to do all the reviews remotely. And the effect of this is not just for the individuals, but also on the impact of on the environment as well. Because imagine we do around 800 reviews only in Hong Kong, and if we have people traveling from around the globe, the travel journeys and CO2 emission and so on. And therefore, this put us in to push things forward. It's a challenge, and we as professional people, we always use the risk as an opportunity. And the COVID-19 basically give us this opportunity to start thinking how we going to do business in future. I mean, even from the office point of view, today office is completely different from tomorrow's office, and everyone start planning, arranging their way of working based on what we're doing now, and that's basically is going to be the future.
Thank you, Dr. Sabih. I think you really touched on a very critical point. I mean, especially for the vocational training and learning. And maybe I will go back to Dr. Wadah, and since he is also an honorary chairman in the Energy Institute, who can elaborate more about it.
Thank you, Dr. Dr. Sabih. I think it's really interesting times. I mean, I go back to maybe the opening thought that was shared by Dr. Youssef with regards to, universities and the merging potentially of universities with the commercial institutions of the future. He mentioned Google as an example, as a sort of a technology company who's obviously done quite well. Most of the technology companies during the COVID, for obvious reasons, didn't do too badly there. I mean, although we've had an economic crisis, there are certain sectors who have done extremely well. I think a few days ago, they were saying that I think it's the owner of Amazon or something like that is going to become the first trillionaire in the world. So I think that there is a big opportunity for this, and with that, I'd like to ask the next question for Dr. Isa Al-Bestaki. Of course, Dr. Isa, you work in various capacities, in academic and vocational, and a lot in the innovation spaces and so on. So, we're really interested to hear your insights really into the potential opportunities that lie with engaging more with industry, SMEs, and experts. How important is it going to be further for these educational institutions, one which you obviously head and represent, to engage more with industry when we're looking at the future in the coming, say, 5 to 10 years?
Thank you very much. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi sallam. Good evening, everybody. And I would like to thank you for making me a part of this excellent panel. I think when I looked at the sky and at the complete lockdown, I saw blue skies everywhere. I realized that how bad we have treated the environment. And I think I suggest also for World Green Economy Organization, telling them, why do we make it once a week work at home, and once a month no transportation except public transportation? In this sense, I think we will clean the environment, and I think we will also make the ozone hole smaller and smaller until it vanishes. So it's a good opportunity. It's a fast track. It's a fast forward, what you can call it. What happened to what Corona did to the society at the end. But if you go into innovation, I think it's very important to realize that innovation is the backbone of all the developed countries. Without innovation, no countries went ahead. And that's the reason why we need to focus on it very much. I'll tell you the reason, because in 2003, when we established Dubai Silicon Oasis, the first thing I did was to work on incubation center. Incubation center needed a lot of work on it. The society was not ready for it because there were no venture capitalists in the country. In a sense that the idea was there, nobody understood it, and implementation was difficult. And that's the reason why things went ahead through the government and not through the private sector, or not to the individuals also. So government went ahead, progressed, but the individuals and the private sector were there sitting down without movement at all. They were still completely. So, and that's the reason we need to work on it to make sure that innovation is a big part of any organization. We need innovation centers in private organizations, in government, in universities. Wherever you go, you need one that. The reason is, especially for the United Arab Emirates and even for the Arab world, we want a sustainable economy after oil, for us at least. The only way we can do it is to produce ourselves. And the goal is made in UAE, sold globally. When you make in UAE, means you are producing something from innovative ideas you had, and had at the end a product that could be sold to the world. So innovation is very important. That's why now the Emirati Science Club comes into being, where they actually have the mission of spreading the awareness of innovation science and technology to the society, plus they try to train those youngsters to become innovators, and then they train them, and after training them, they hone their talents and make sure that these talents go towards innovation of a product and so on. And of course, they also participate internationally to get ideas from other countries. Innovation is a very important part of it, and the society didn't move ahead at all. I've been trying in University of Dubai so much to have an innovation center. We had it, but it was always still because there was no culture in the country to do it. That's the reason in the 50th charter of Sheikh Mohammed Rashid Al Maktoum, Rahullah, he had the charter, the sixth clause said that every university, private or private, should have a free zone, and that free zone is the foundation of creating those startups that are innovative through ideas of students, professors, and staff. This is the reason why the government they intervened. We had to do it the other way around. We should actually help the government to make things happen. And now slowly it's going, but still it's slow. This COVID-19 actually helped to accelerate. It's a fast forward. It's a fast track. And the global world realized that the way to go ahead is through innovation. The medical scientists of the world, they're working very hard to get solutions. They don't come from thin air. They need to be people who are innovative and researchers that can do it. So now is the time to think really to disrupt the economy. Disrupt the economy in the sense that use the technology, use engineering skills to make sure that the future will be sustainable. And I think innovation is always the foundation of any developed country.
Thank you very much. So, Doctor, I want to ask you a question. Very interesting that when you say this, you're saying that you set up the innovation center, but you think that greater collaboration between government and the private sector should work, and there should be more of so because COVID-19, the need is the mother of all necessity. So perhaps we will see, inshallah, more innovation and more serious steps towards innovation. There was one question that someone asked, which is a very interesting question. I was going to take this question later on, but I want to ask you right now because it's very much in line with what you're explaining here. The questioner, Mr. Adil Khalil, one of our members in KSA, he's saying, how does engineering design improve the methods of handling COVID-19 patients and suspects when received in a medical care facility? So when received, tested, treated, quarantined, or released. So how do you think that innovation? I mean, not this particular question, but it's quite a it's a complicated question for an engineer. And engineers, as you know, they have skills of design. Even special engineers, civil engineers have got civil engineering, understanding mechanical, electrical, chemical, etc. But now you're asking an engineer to look at something and understand a completely new study of COVID-19, for example, or something medical and how patients are supposed to come in. Do you see a new type of engineering coming up, like when we saw 20 years ago or 30 years ago, industrial engineering coming about, which is a merger, a mix between different disciplines of engineering? Do you see that happening?
Yes, for sure. You see, the future is for the engineers to be medical doctors. Instead, we call them medical engineers. So medical engineers, they become medical doctors, and also they become engineers in order to deal with these kind of things. Future, we will have capsules that we can swallow. Those capsules are micro electromechanical systems or nano electromechanical systems that can actually go inside your body and fix things and add medicine or cut something as an operation. I think engineering plays a very, very big role in the future to even fight cancer. You can kill each one. If you swallow NEMS, nano electromechanical system, thousands of them, each one can go and hit a cell and kill it. So in a sense, engineering innovation plays the biggest role in the future. I think without it, it will be very difficult because doctors depend on engineers. All the equipment, whatever it is designed by engineers. Even the new masks will be coming, will be engineering. The incubators, even the inhalers, whatever you're doing, engineers are designing them. The future is how to design to protect yourself in a sense that anything that can attack you will create an immunity automatically through an engineering device within your body. So I think engineering plays a very important role in the innovation of medicine.
Subhanallah. Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Isa.
Dr. Wadah, if you allow me, I want to add something on from the practical civil engineering aspect of this question. Yes, I mean, if you look at it now, we building emergency hospitals everywhere. Also, we are not able to bring in people who sick, ill, but they don't have corona because we don't want them to infect it. I think in the future, we're going to design our hospitals, our medical assets in such a way that it's flexible. You know, for emergency access, you have only one access for everyone. But if you would have two access, you can't have one access dedicated to emergency, which is your normal cases, day-to-day emergency, but other access for future emergency like the COVID-19. And therefore, from the design aspect of all hospitals and clinics and every medical asset is going to be flexible enough to operate for normal operation and for emergency operation.
Thank you, Dr. Sabih. I mean, that's an excellent question because you know what you are touching on. Some people would call, performance-based design, even in some cases, in safety engineers like myself would call it more, risk-based design. But so I want to then ask this question of maybe Dr. Yusuf or Professor Abdullah, with regards to now, given that we're moving very, very quickly. So if we were to consider what's happening at universities today, and given what Dr. Isa said about the curriculums changing, the kind of he mentioned that the medical kind of engineers type, is it possible to imagine then the merging of programs in one university? So actually, for example, a student could be undertaking various modules from more than one school or facility and fulfilling the credit hours and examinations of the coursework in such a way that it would create a more exceptional learning experience. I mean, blended learning, as Dr. Ghanem mentioned, both in classrooms and online and other experiential methods of learning. But then the students can become more cross-functional through studying across disciplines. So they can, in effect, be creating an option for students, both at undergraduate and maybe postgraduate levels, to really personalize or even bespoke their qualifications. In your minds, is this something which is plausible in the coming years? And do you think that digitization is going to make this more possible? So I don't know, Professor Abdullah, maybe if you want to answer that question first.
Well, actually, when it comes to this very, very important question, actually, for academics everywhere, I think throughout history, we've seen new programs emerging, and we've seen other programs diminishing, and we've seen programs in one way or the other merging into something different. I think with the digital education and with the digital technologies that we have and the ability for students now to access information in the palm of their hands, so many different information, I think the way we teach is going to change. In the same way when the book was invented, or when the book was invented and the printing machine printed so many different books, people were able to take books with them home. So instead of just studying in the classroom and all references were there, people were able to take books with them home. And now people can access information in seconds. So it would sound a bit, if we don't use this information, if we don't use these tools to improve on what we do, then what's the use of it? Every new technology that is being developed should add value to what we do. And that added value is what we need to think about. So when we have these digital technologies now, or this online education, if that online education or whatever technologies is just going to simply replace what we do now, then we did not do anything good there. It has to add value to what we do. And I think digital technologies now are adding values to what we do in education. We are not teaching students the same old design processes. Dr. Sabih would agree with me here. So in civil engineering, for example, we do not teach students the same old information that we studied in universities when we were there. We are teaching them totally different ways because they can use the computers and so on. So new technologies will come, new programs will be developed, and so on. But one thing is not going to change, and that is the basic knowledge and the basic sciences and the basic information that every single human being should know for their own discipline. Talking about math, talking about physics, talking about chemistry, talking about the ability to read and write and be critical in many different ways, those will not change. And only what will change is probably the application of these things. And the students or engineers or any professional person should be able to take that information somehow and understand it and then build on it. Yes, things will change, things will develop, and it's already changing. It's already changing, but I think it will change even more in the future. We need to be a bit brave enough to take the decision to change. You know, when we come to education institutions, we are controlled by accreditation bodies locally, professional bodies locally, and international, and so on. So changing internally has to be agreed with so many different stakeholders all around the university. But in one way or the other, things are changing, and I think things will change even in a faster pace in years to come.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Professor Abdullah. I mean,
Dr.
I remember.
Waddah, if you allow me to add something, it's very interesting, Dr. Abdullah. You're absolutely right. I'm just going back in history. If we look at the way we as a civil engineer, we started working. I mean, if you look at health and safety, imagine the 30s when they building the skyscraper in New York and how people, there is no safety harness, there is nothing. And then we start talking about health and safety. Environment. No one was thinking when you design, you have to take the environment in point of view. And now, recently, we start thinking of sustainability. I mean, when I've done my degree, these three aspects, it's hardly considered. But I think the future is going to take in consideration exactly what we're doing now and how we're going to do, and the effect of things like the COVID-19, and maybe other aspects as well.
Yes. No, thank you, Dr. Sabih. I think it's very true. Now it's something that is fully integrated, and this reminds me of a story when I was, nearly about 20 years ago. I was attending a wedding in India, and I was sitting in, these Indian weddings, they take Indian gentleman, and he was telling me, he was asking me some questions. He was asking me some questions, and then I was very proud because at that time I was doing an MSc in environmental sciences, and I was an environmental engineer and so on and so forth. And then he said to me, son, you know what you should do? He goes, the most important thing you should do, forget about your MSc. He goes, you should do an MBA. I said to him, but why? I'm an engineer. I want to become a specialist. He said, no, you should do an MBA. And it's very interesting. I actually ended up doing an MBA, and now I understand I ended up doing not only an MBA, I ended up doing also a DBA. But it was very important because I think what he was trying to tell me is that the world will need people with these kind of mixed skills. So to you, Dr. Youssef, in terms of this question, we started with you and you said that there's this gradual transformation, and this transformation might be forced as well for the transformation. So going back to my question, can you see, and given what Professor Abdullah said about the, I don't want to say the rigidity of the academic institutions, but the governance, let's say the very tight governance, let's put it in a very positive way, that universities practice, or is what is practiced on universities. Can you imagine somebody going and taking 60% of the modules in engineering, and then doing a couple of modules in the School of Medicine, and then doing a couple of modules in the School of Business, and then bespoking their qualification, so he can become a kind of a medical engineer who also understands a few things about business? Is this something which is plausible in the next few years, do you think, Dr. Youssef?
Well, I think it's possible, and already some universities, including RIT, is doing it. But let me answer the question in a much more holistic way.
Please.
We have always to ask the question why universities exist. Either they would like to develop the talents and making sure that those graduates, they find jobs and they can contribute to themselves, their families, and the community, to help the economy of the country and the diversity of the economy. And the third one, to be a beacon of knowledge that can really radiate knowledge to the community. We have to change and adapt, but always we have to remember why we exist. So for example, it's not the job of the university just to do online teaching. This is a tool, this is an enabler, but always remember we are doing it for the students, for the society, and for the economy. And that's why as we design the future university, or the university in the future, I think we really have to adapt in various ways. Let me give you some examples. Advising a student should be done from the beginning. Now, currently students, when they take advising from faculty, they just come maybe once per year and they take an advice. This has to be solid advice going from the beginning, and industry should be involved in advising a student. So the student will have a faculty advisor and an industry advisor all the way until they graduate, because this is the way we can link industry to the university. The second point we should really focus on is really we give the students the innovation journey as a journey, not just only a course or maybe at the end or having a center. It should be within the fabric of the curricula, how really you can skill the student with innovation, entrepreneurship skills, such that at the end of the day, they can open their business, or maybe when they go and work with a company, they know the business mentality and all of that. This has to be within the fabric of the curricula itself. The other one is the city has to be a lab for the students. So you don't give them assignments just only for the course and they read online. Why don't they go and apply it in the city? And this requires the government, the industry, the society to be more engaging. The third point is the certification of the degree program. For example, if I am an electrical engineer, I finish with a degree, but it would be nice if I am certified in networking from Cisco and others. So at least, because in this case, I can really find jobs after I finish. Now, going back to your question, and I feel at the end of the day, the university will become a community center, in addition to teaching the basic core courses, which my colleagues talk about. Because if you are an engineer, there are basic things which you should know. No matter how you do it, you should know. But we need the university to become a community area with innovation and entrepreneurship areas where people from industry, students, faculty, the community, they come and mingle and they learn and they do business together and etc. And that will prepare students in the real life while they are at the university. At RIT in New York, we have a school, or a college if you call it, called Individualized Studies, already started, Dr. Bob. Student goes there and says, look, I would like to be part of that college because I would like to take this part of the courses with this little bit from economy, this little bit of medicine, with an engineering degree, and I would like to finish with that degree. It goes through the process and it gets approved, then the student will continue. Now, shifting this experience, and it's very successful, but it needs the right kind of students who knows exactly what they want, and it needs the right way of really accrediting and approving that program. If this one comes to let's say UE, and I'm sure one day it will come, of course it will find some obstacle challenges from faculty, from the Ministry of Accreditation and Ministry of Education, but this is the future and it will happen. currently, we could see that actually there are so many movements within the university to adjust and adapt to that. And we are successful in many cases, but sometimes we have the challenges to happen. I would like to finish by, I am worried about autism of learning, which actually my colleagues touched upon it. We don't want individuals to stay at home and learn from a computer without actually getting in touch with other people, fall in love in their study at the university, fight with other students, find challenges, and be part of the society. If we have just only using a computer and online learning, we will end up with isolated individuals. They don't know how to interact with people, and we need to find solutions within the university, within the curricula, to make sure that doesn't happen. And this could be the hybrid learning. Even some countries now, they are focusing on the military service for their people in order for them to come together, deal with each other, have one society. They know the pain of the society, and they know what is the aspiration of their country. So individualized studies, I think it's coming. Many universities, including RIT, now we are getting more courses towards the general education in order to make it more bandwidth for the student to select what they want, but still there is a focus core in the area which they would like to designate themselves at the end of the day. I am a businessman or I am an engineer and what have you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yusuf. And I must follow up with one question there. I mean, you said that it requires a certain student, so the maturity and the understanding of the student must imagine what they're going to do. I personally applied for chemical engineering before I went to university, but I was offered by one of the universities to do environmental engineering. I found it intriguing, so instead of going and doing chemical engineering, I went and did environmental engineering and never regretted it, طبعاً. Like, in the question of then, what is the role? You spoke about the community for learning. And we'll speak later on. I'll pass on to Dr. Ghanem because to talk about the community of learning and the community of practice, because Dr. Ghanem is a unique.
Can I add something? Very
yes,
simple.
please.
Just
yes. Tafadhal.
Actually, the future jobs, because you know there's always a rise and fall of jobs, and also a mix, a blended of something. But one thing is very important. It doesn't matter what it is. At the end, university looks at two things: course learning outcomes and program learning outcomes. And the number of courses taken, we have course learning outcomes, and they all feed to main program learning outcome. Once we fulfill it, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be medical, medicine and engineering. It could be business engineering, business medicine, whatever it is, it all depends on the course learning outcomes to get the program learning outcomes. So that could be very easily done. Very simple. You can mix all together. You will be an engineer plus medicine, medical doctor in a certain sense. You can be a businessman, whatever, you can do it as long as you create the right curriculum for it.
Dr. Isa, if I may follow with you, since you mentioned about the innovation and you are from the people who are the pioneer to bring the idea of starting up and the Silicon Oasis, the question, do we need the socialization in the innovation centers, or we can do it online learning? And the second question that we have many questions that from the audience, like Engineer Fadi, Engineer Abdurrahman, Rami, about the role of AI, the artificial intelligence, how we can capitalize about the role AI to ensure the quality of online engineering and to enhance our infrastructure services in general.
Well, I think first of all, artificial intelligence will be a part of every program, every app, every learning system. It will be a very important part of it. Actually, there are so many things I have that are going to be the future. But if you don't work on artificial intelligence, I don't think we'll go to the next step. One of the easiest things to do is exams are the most difficult when you do it remotely. Anything that cuts off or something happens to the bandwidth, or the student could go somewhere and do something, come back and then can cheat. When you use the artificial intelligence, actually it checks the way, the movements of things and so on, to make sure that whatever is happening is really doing the exam or getting cheated from somebody else. Even they look at the plagiarism. So artificial intelligence is very important in every sense. And in innovation, I think the thing that Arab world were backwards is because we're in third world, because of there was no innovation in a sense of what I'm trying to say now. a lot of innovative ideas in the Arab world, maybe more than any other place in the world, but they weren't incubated, they weren't taken care of, they weren't invested in. So all these things together created an environment, just innovate and forget about it. Those who went abroad, they actually succeeded, and even they went fast track in succeeding. And we know very important examples. The things are changing, especially in UAE. It's changing. We are taking care of innovations and also inventions. The only thing we need to do is, when you look at the research, what we do right now is mainly for the professors to be promoted from assistant professor to associate professor, and then to full professor, or publish a paper in a journal and become happy. But we need to look at it differently. We need to look at innovation. We need to look at patents, and patents to turn into a commercial product. So we need research and business development. Whatever we need to do is do basic research, is, as Dr. Abdullah said, it's the most important thing. Without it, we cannot do anything at all. This should be all attached to all degrees. So basic sciences are important. When you build on anything application, you want to make sure that in the future we don't have any oil. If you don't have any oil, we need to do something from now. The only way to do is to have products that can be sold globally. So research and business development. And one of the things I think till now we are lacking in the country, that is, there is no research like we had before, National Research Foundation. Now we don't have any. And even the budget was as low as possible, very low. It wouldn't help the innovators to actually build products that can be commercially viable. So I think we need to have a foundation or a center or something authority in the country that is a research based to fund the researchers, that especially the one that have some commercial viability in the products and so on. Once we do this, we will succeed, we will accelerate, and we will not worry about the future sustainability of our economy. So innovation is a big part of it. And the future will also look at education as disruptive education. That means they're building less universities. As Dr. Yusuf said, the universities will be mainly for social things, for activities and so on. Learning will be completely online. You can ask any professor in any world to give you a course, you take it, they assess you, you pass it, and that's it. And automatically by blockchain will be transferred the money to the professor. So every professor in the world will be ready to teach anybody in the world and others to learn. So you can be at the beach, you can learn, you can be lying down somewhere, you can learn. So it's 24 hours per day learning. So learning will be disruptive, and time will not be anymore essential, because you can finish degree instead of 4 years in 3, in 2, in 1, even in 6 months, as long as you meet the PLOs, which is program learning outcomes, and CLOs, course learning outcomes. So future is for technology. You are talking about fintech, biztech, energy tech, everything will be into technology.
So, Dr. Yusuf, I just recap what you're saying. Should we have more centralized authorities for research? I mean, we have research institute and we have research parks right now, but as I do agree with you that we need more centralized authority that can combine all these research institute together and sit together to play maybe more federal law or centralized role, and the focus will be much better.
I think it's very important funding. That's the main important thing. I'll tell you one thing. ICT fund, they take 1% of revenues of Etisalat and 1% of DO.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, they actually spend on so many things. One of them is research, but it's only in ICT sector. I think there should be an authority that funds the other sector beside ICT. And that's what's missing in the country. And we don't have that authority to do it. So I think we need to work on it from now, to have also to work maybe 1% from banks to give to for finance and maybe investments, and also other private sectors, 1% of it for the research. Once you do that, I think you will have a funding resource that can help the universities and the research centers to produce knowledge and produce products that can be financially and commercially viable.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Isa. Professor Abdullah, you want to add something?
Yeah, I mean, great that Dr. Isa mentioned research, and he's totally correct here, I think. What we need, not only in the UAE, since this is an open webinar, what we need is to transform research from being the culture of the few to the culture of many. What I mean by that, research has to be a culture. And when we say culture, we mean that in the education programs, students should be able to understand what research is. They should be able to contribute to research. They should be able to interact with research. And keeping the research only to the academics would be problematic. And one of the issues that we try to deal with at the British University, by being mainly a postgraduate only university, is to try to make research a culture for the students. So students have to do that. Once you have that kind of culture in the whole community, in the whole society, in the whole country, wherever it is, I think things can go forward. But to add to that, having good researchers, whether you have the best professors in the world or the best students in the world, if you do not have that kind of complete chain, okay, to get those kind of ideas from the academics and from the students and from the researcher, wherever they are, to the end product, through what I mean here, through the professional bodies, through the bodies that can build up codes and regulations, that can build up knowledge for products, and then the manufacturing side, the industry side, all of that. If you don't have that full chain of things, then a lot of the research that you do may be used by others and so on. So actually, when we need to develop knowledge, and when we need to promote innovation and entrepreneurship, we need to think of the full chain of the project here, from start all the way to the end. And that's something that most third world countries are lacking. You will see that in the developed country, you will see that in America, in the Western Europe, Japan, Korea, and so on. But you will not see that full chain of institutions, let me say, that are linked together. You will not see the interaction between academia and private sector and government there. It is not fully utilized. And I think that's something that needs to be taken by the top authorities in the country, so that something like that at the end of the day is becoming more productive and more material.
Thanks a lot, Professor Abdullah. I mean, you really tackle a really good point about the society engagement. And let me move to the industrial aspect. Dr. Sabih, how do you see the community engagement and learning towards the professional development? I mean, there is much awareness about it, and how we can encourage more people to be engaged in the professional development. I mean, from your perspective, how you see it?
Thank you very much, Dr. Ghani. The professional qualification, professional development, it's becoming very well known within this part of the world. As a professional qualification is not something new in the Western part of the world, but here people, individuals as engineers and companies and clients seeing the benefit of being professionally qualified. And therefore, in order to qualify yourself, in order to be in line and up to date with what's going on, you have to develop yourself. And how you develop yourself is going to be a journey between yourself, the institution, you're part of it, and the people within the institution. Mainly, most of the institution rely on its member to develop each other. And we, as the ICE, Institution of Civil Engineers, we have a network of qualified, professionally qualified people from charter to fellows, and they help future chartered engineers. And it's not just helping them in the professional qualification. Sometimes it's in day-to-day aspect of their life, because the professional qualification is not just as engineer, but there are other aspects you have to have them. There are soft skills that you need to have them, and there are not in any textbook. And therefore, it's a collaboration between the community at different levels and the institution, and the collaboration between the institutions and government and clients.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Sabih. I mean, as you said, I think it is, you reflect about the degree of awareness about the society and the community. And again, Dr. Waddah, maybe as you know, since you have been academic and in the industry, really in both of them, how you can see the society, they can mix these two together to raise the awareness for the whole community and the stakeholders.
Thank you, Dr. Ghanem. I think, you know, as you know, we have been trying also with some of the panelists who are with us today. We have had a discussion around, you know, professional engineering and professional qualification, professional development. I think it is a culture. It is more a culture of continuous learning, which I think, going back to some of the thoughts that were shared by Dr. Ais especially, and Dr. Yusuf, with regards to, you know, students, you know, wanting to go and become innovative. I mean, I noted some of the Q&A, you know, two of the Q&As that have been posted have actually asked the panelists, and I think we can move on to that question because it's important before we start just addressing only the questions from the panelists. But I think it's good to ask this question of the panelists, that, you know, what will be very important for students today, be they undergraduates or postgraduates, you know, how are they going to engage with professional development? Yet at the same time, many people, you know, wanted to do masters, because there was an era when just having a degree was not enough for you to develop and to grow, especially in a technical field or even in a managerial field. So I did an MSc, but I also did an MBA because I wanted to grow both technically, and I wanted to grow and keep my options open in management as well. So what would typically be the kind of the 5 top technical subjects or qualifications? I mean, if you gentlemen were back to being you know, 18 years old today, and post-COVID world, with the wisdom that you have, mashallah, you know, with you today, what kind of 5 top technical subjects or qualifications would you advise, you know, which relate to engineering sciences or even energy-related subjects, which you think would be very, very good to sort of invest, for people to invest their time in? So this can be undergraduates or postgraduate or even professional development degrees. So maybe I can ask that question to the whole panel. Maybe we start with you, Dr. Sabih, first.
Thank you very much, Dr. Allah. I mean, I will start basically, you mentioned very, very important thing. The future engineer is not going to be just an engineer, and he must have a second degree. And as you said, it's the MBA and master degree, but I think it's more maybe a different discipline. And we in the civil engineering, we already have this. For instance, he is a civil engineer, but he has a low qualification. But I think the future is going to be more on the technical side of engineering, beside what he's doing. For me, and I give you an example, there are discipline which basically been for a while but not mentioned so often, is the design of civil engineering aspect. It's the finite element analysis. This is one discipline I think is going to be very well sought after in the future, because if we're going to design our assets, we have to have the best outcome of the design. One discipline which is it's becoming very much sought after and everyone asks for is the BIM, building information modeling and digital twin. This is a must now for civil engineers as a users and as basically operator of building assets. The 3D printing. The 3D printing is we start small, but I think the UAE is being leading in this field, and I think we have a couple of offices, building, villas, and even two-story building is being 3D printed, and therefore the future civil engineer is not going to be just building brick, concrete, and steel. Has to be have some knowledge on 3D printing. Composite and advanced materials. We all talking about sustainability, we're talking about the environment. There is limited resources which we have to use for today need, but we have to think of the next generation. We should not deplete all the natural resources. And the composite and advanced materials, this is something it's becoming very well established within the construction industry, and started with the aerospace industry, but it's becoming part of the construction industry. And one last thing which already been mentioned by the panelists is the artificial intelligence and machine learning. This is going to be the future of construction sites. The construction site we know today is not going to be the same, and therefore we have to prepare our engineers, and this is for our academics. Basically, we have certain things we teach our engineers. Dr. Isa you mentioned is, and Dr. Abdullah, it's the basic, the mathematics, the physics, but there are future disciplines which we need to prepare our future engineers to be able to grab it, and when they go on site, it's not going to be something they never heard of. And as you all know, there is now trend of smart infrastructure. The smart infrastructure, and the Cambridge University is leading on this. It's basically going to have assets which monitor itself, can detect any defects, and can basically send messages, send information to the control centers that there's something is going to happen. These are the main discipline which really need to be considered for future engineers.
Can I ask Dr. Sabih a question?
Yes.
What about nanostructural
Go ahead, sir.
materials?
Sorry?
Nanostructural materials, are there anything being done?
Yes, this is part of the intelligent and advanced composite structures.
Okay.
Sorry, Dr. Waddah.
No, Dr. Isa is asking about nanostructures.
Yes.
Yeah, nanostructural materials, yes.
It's mainly it's for
nanostructural materials, yeah, Dr. Sabih?
Yes. Yeah, it's part of the composite advanced materials, and I said the intelligent and smart structures, basically smart infrastructure, where you embedded these within your within the skin, for instance, of your structure, your bridge, and this will continuously monitor of your asset. And also one discipline which is becoming more and more. I spend a lot of my professional life inspecting assets, bridges, and infrastructure on highways and railways. And basically, the arrangement to do an inspection of a bridge on a highway, the cost of it, and the logistics of closing highways, it's very expensive, very time consuming. Now we have the drones. You don't need to close anything. You have the drone, and if this is going to do your inspection. Even site inspections can't be done. These are the discipline which is going to be the future for engineers.
Dr. Sabih, if I may add about the material, since material is one of the things that I'm really interested in, that in UAE, there is a lot of good material research going on. Like, for example, I know Professor Dr. Adil Tamimi from IOS, that he's doing a lot of interesting research in 3D printing, biomaterial, and within his group, it is not only civil engineers. You can find mechanical engineers, people from different, from physics, and sometimes we need people from economic. So we need, I think the key word here, that it is interdisciplinary. Interdisciplinary is the key that we needed for the next era after COVID-19. And what do you think, Dr. Waddah, about that, that the need of interdisciplinary, so that we have more holistic information, so that we have more sustainability, as Professor Abdullah Samti said?
Absolutely.
Can I answer the question of that future?
Yes, please, Dr. Isa, تفضل.
Actually, one of the big issues right now is, which is the future of technology of the world, is data sciences. And I think data science is a multidisciplinary discipline, because I think in the future we'll have, already we have big data. One day it will come soon, we'll talk about small data, not big data. So we need to analyze small data. So right now they're working on layering the big data. So you do a process, it becomes smaller. Another process becomes smaller, another process becomes smaller. So whatever layer you require, you'll go to it. So you can get to the lowest layer that can be small data, analyze it well. So data sciences is really the future, and it's going to continue to grow and will not fall down until maybe years to come. So I think big data with artificial intelligence together and machine learning, I think these are the combination that will have the future of technologies. You're talking about cybersecurity. You're talking about nanobiotechnology. Nanobiotechnology is in electronics, in mechanical, and in biology. So 3 disciplines. You go into nanostructures, as we said. You go into, well, one thing maybe I'd like to mention is 5G, and people are afraid of 5G. 5G is a technology that will stay for long. Even if they call 6Gs, I think it'll be just a continuation of 5G. 5G is technology of all technologies. It will replace every technology available. It will replace the Wi-Fi, it could replace the Bluetooth, it could replace the internet, everything could be replaced in the 5G. And the speed that's going so high is 20 gigabits per second. And also the latency of nearly 1 to 4 milliseconds will make sure that even remotely you can do surgeries by using robots, and you use your hand with the virtual reality. All this together, you can actually do live operations remotely. The reason is because the technology will allow it. There'll be no latency. There'll be speed is high, and the bandwidth is so big that you never get cut because somebody could enter. So 5G is something that we should look at it carefully now, and look at it for the future of at least 20 to 30 years, even though 6G is coming in 10 years.
Yes, thank you very much. Dr. Abdullah, Dr. Yusuf, you have anything to add with regards to the topics? I mean, the top 5 between both Dr. Isa and Dr. Sabih. They've spoken about the 3D printing. They've spoken about the composite materials driven by sustainability. They've spoken about the AI, machine learning, and big data, and the use of big data. طبعاً cybersecurity was mentioned, and talking about kind of smart infrastructure, nano material structure technology, layering, data sciences, and also closing with 5G. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
وضح, can I?
تفضل.
Actually, Mr. Sabih and Dr. Lisa, they covered most of the topics, but let me talk about the way we deliver it. We need a process because these things, they would change, and we cannot, for example, we tell a student, come and we will give you a degree in 3D printing. This will change, and maybe it's good today, maybe it will saturate the market and etc. I think the way we do it, in order to, is really we keep, and this goes back to the individualized studies. And actually there is a need of the industry to come and be involved with the university as we really run and conduct our PS degrees. We keep engineering as an engineering, but we tell a student, look, you are working with this industry because they need 3D printing, and maybe your research, your capstone project, whether you are doing a master, whatever, should be 3D printing because this is needing now and in the future. The industry will help us to do this, and this is what we are doing. So the mechanism, it is not really focused on one thing because we cannot create a degree around specific things. For example, when you talk about artificial intelligence, will you apply artificial intelligence to what? It could be an electrical engineer, but you are applying artificial intelligence to the challenges of power and engineering. So I think the idea is if industry, they come and join hand in hand with the university in conducting the curricula, designing the curricula, maybe we can create the special topics, the individualized studies to address the current needs of the industry. As the needs of the industry, they change, definitely we can change accordingly rather than we are stuck with one degree and suddenly it's an absolute and the market has been saturated or the technology has been changed. So most of the things which were mentioned by my colleagues, they are hot topics now, they are needed in the future, but we need the mechanisms. How do we create curricula with industry to make it sustainable for the students and the community?
So two quick things I'd like to ask here. So Dr. Yusuf, because earlier you mentioned about the cumulative learning, the cumulative practice, the changes and the maturity of students. So the two questions I want to ask you very quickly that. So do you not think that you're talking about the programs and there should be a collaboration, because if everybody goes out, because now the whole world has gone and produced masks, everybody started making masks, factories closed down their car manufacturing and they started making respirators. Everybody started making respirators, everybody started making masks. If the whole world moves towards just 3D printing and leaves everything else, then we will have a quick saturation. So two questions here. One, what is the role of collaboration between institutions and industry? And in that, how can we help in developing the new mentors, and the new career guidance? Because today the mentors are people from industry and people from universities. How can they be mentoring students who are, maybe some of them are online with us today? How can they be mentoring them? Because they're looking at, they have an experience from the past, but the experience of the future. So how can you advise people about the future when you yourself are very uncertain about the future? It's a very difficult question, complicated question, but I'm sure we will get some good thoughts from you. Please.
Well, let me give you practical things which we are doing, and I'm sure other universities, they are doing something similar, because at the end of the day, we need to implement. For example, our co-op program is very long. For example, at our university, it's a 1 year. Students, they have to leave the university for almost 1 year, and they have to work with industry, real work with industry, and try to get engaged. And we tell them, while you are really doing something with industry, learning from industry, learning the new technologies, when you come back, bring some of the challenges which these companies are facing. And in your final year, why don't you solve these problems for them? So at least you can show them that really we can contribute. In this case, actually, we are getting the industry insight with us working and doing that. The second point, currently in some of our master programs, some of the courses are taught by industry. For example, in data analytics, we tell, for example, IBM or Orange, we would like you to come and not only help us in the design and the advisory board of the curriculum, we would like you to come and teach the course. You don't sell your product, but we teach it from an industrial point of view, such that students, they know what is really coming into the future. I think there are many ways our industry colleagues, they can join us at various parts, could be at the beginning, at the middle, at the end, where students, they will be supervised parallelly with the industry, the people from industry and the university. But it needs the kind of people like Dr. Sabih who understand that the outcome of the output of the university is the input to his industry. And that's why that input has to be right.
Yes. Thank you very much. Dr. Ghanem, maybe over to you. We'll start answering now some of the many questions. We've answered 2 or 3, 4 of them already so far. There was an interesting question here that this question was, let's just see who it was from, MM. How can we better prepare our coming generation of engineers to deal with unexpected crisis and more confidently based on what we have learned from COVID-19 crisis? Of course, we know we are not out of the crisis yet. We're still in the midst of it. How can we protect our talented and innovative students in engineering fields in moving in the right direction when exposed to the real world? Maybe Professor Abdullah, you want to answer that?
Well, yeah. Well, this question is actually related to the other question you asked with regard to the new disciplines and so on. I think, well, when we come back to the basics, and engineers are actually people who use the basic knowledge, the basic computational, whatever methods to build useful products. That's engineering. So any development, technological development, is actually a development, whether computational or say material or whatever, that will create a new better designed products. Going from the pyramids in Egypt all the way to Burj Khalifa now, for example, these are 2 very astonishing structures built by, well, mainly by engineers, of course, with other things, but they were able to use the technologies in materials, in the new development in the concrete and the high performance concrete and all this kind of thing, with the strength of the computer to make this happen. So what I think is the way forward is it is going to be the incorporation of digital strengths and computational strengths on one side, with the development and the material side on the other side. But all disciplines will be there. The way we offer the basic knowledge about all disciplines of engineering will be the same. The way we deliver the information, the way we teach students, the kind of information we give students will change with time. And I am not actually worried about it at all, because it will come normal, it will come gradual. We are in a connected world, so the material scientists will not work in isolation from the mathematicians or from the engineers, whether it is electrical engineer or mechanical engineer and so on. So I think all disciplines will be required. The need for all disciplines will be there. The way we develop these engineers will be different, and the most important thing in the development of the engineers on how they will be able to accommodate new technologies, accommodate new situations like the COVID. And imagine that we are at a time when we don't have these digital technologies, and then we had COVID. What will happen? The whole world will be at a standstill. These technologies made things much easier than would have been on the other side. So I'm not going to recommend something, but I am going to say that just prepare yourself, be ready for it, have the skills, keep learning as you go on, keep studying as you go on. It doesn't end with your bachelor, it doesn't end with your master, it doesn't end even with your doctorate. Just keep learning, and as you keep learning, you will be there. Don't worry about it.
Dr. Wardah, if you allow me, I would like to add something. I mean,
yes,
this
please.
is
but quickly, because we have
very quickly. It's a collaboration between the universities which give the basis and the foundation for the engineers, the professional institutions who give the core competencies. And if you see a chartered engineers and non-chartered, the chartered engineers will cope better with all what you throw at him. and also the clients, because there is a very important aspect of this is the client. The client must see the benefits of a chartered engineer, a benefit of a professional engineers, because most of the clients, they don't want to spend money of developing and training their people. And therefore, as professional institution and universities, we should push the client and sell the benefit of the professional qualifications.
Dr. Sabih, there is a question that, if I may continue from here, that from Rohan, and he was saying that, is it really necessary nowadays to have an academic degree and university degree for hiring? I mean, this question can be both for academic and industrial. I mean, and his question for all panelists, that should I have a bachelor? I mean, the stereotype that I finish my bachelor, I get the job. Is it now the case anymore that I should have my bachelor, then I get my master if I want to get promoted, or things are changing already?
I think I quickly, I already answered this question. Universities provide you the foundation, and if you don't have a strong foundation, you can't go anywhere, because this is life.
I would like to ask one last question, because we've been our focus in these panel, because we have just 10 minutes, just under 10 minutes left. So I'll ask each of the panelists to give 1 or 2 minutes of closing thoughts. But in your closing thoughts, can you address, because we've been speaking to what's going to happen to the world of education, what's going to happen to the world of professional development, what's going to happen, and what people should be focusing on. However, what would be your advice therefore for the employers? So this is now a question. So what is your closing comments? Maybe what is your advice therefore to employers? We've been giving a lot of advice to people and how they should develop, what things we should. But what about the employers? What should they be doing? Given that the opening remarks from Dr. Yusuf said that there is this gradual transformation, and my universities might even start merging with companies. So maybe we will start with Dr. Isa on this.
Yes, it's not an easy question, by the way. One of the things that we worked on is regarding consortium, academic consortium. I started it 3 years ago. Now we are working on it. That was phase 1. Phase 2 was academic and industrial consortium. So we're going to also involve the industry in actually working with the university in terms of academic advices, in terms of industrial, in terms of collaboration of research, and so on. So I think this is the beginning of strong collaboration between the academic institutions plus the industry. Another thing is, I think we have to look at, when you look at the degrees in the university, most of us, I think we prepare graduates not only to become academically viable, academically qualified, but also professionally qualified. As Dr. Yusuf said, we others have, we do certificates, actually professional certificates. You can get CIMA, you can get SHRM, human resources. You can get a degree with a professional certificate. You are ready to work with the employers. So I think this is the connection. Once you have those degree certificates with the degrees, you have opened that kind of collaboration. And the third, which is, every academia, they have 5 objectives: teaching or learning, they have research and development, they have social, what they call it, society's service to society, to community. 4th is continuous education or lifelong learning. This is exactly connected to the industry, plus collaboration with industry in terms of research. These are 5 things. If it goes well, I think the employers will be involved much into your students, with your students.
Thank you very much, Dr. Isa. And so, Professor Abdullah, maybe if I ask you your closing thoughts and your advice to employers?
Well, I think industry and academia are more engaged in the West and in developed countries than it is here. So one of the important things that I would like to industry to understand is to come and engage with education institutions, understand our product. Some companies and industry and factories, they think we are producing somebody who is going to fit tomorrow in what they do. And that's not the case. We are education institutions. We graduate students, whether they are engineers or any other profession, to be people who can do a certain job or many other jobs. So if they come and interact with us, the question, for example, when it comes, we are not giving degrees for a certain job, for example. So they are not going to be a Google programmer or a Microsoft developer or whatever that. No, that's not the case. If somebody wants to have that kind of job, they can be trained to do that job. But what we do is totally different. We are an education institutions. We develop people who are long-term professionals who can learn as they go on. When technologies change, they can adapt and so on. And industry needs to understand this and need to communicate with us on this so that there is no gap between us and industry.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abdullah. Dr. Yusuf, if I can pass on that question to you, what's your advice to employers and your closing thoughts, and maybe focusing on mentorship and career guidance, working together with them?
Yeah, actually, I would like to start where Dr. Abdullah just finished. Employers, if they need the right talent in order to enhance their business and meet their KPIs, definitely they have to get engaged with the universities to prepare those people to be ready for them. This could be done at advising what curricula. It could be in the core program, training those students in the core program. The other one, companies, employers, they have to understand after COVID-19 and with the future, they have to be innovative in their business. Any company which does not innovate, definitely they will just stagnate. And to do innovation, either you do it in-house or maybe you could rely on the university and the students and the faculty, and it will be a cheap way of helping them in order to innovate and to create new business for them. And I think maybe that they should really come to universities and utilize it. The third one, companies, they have to understand that if they are doing business in UAE, they have to be loyal to UAE. Not just only I do my KPIs is to get the money, and after that I don't care about creating talents and research and innovation for the country. They have to do business here and they have to be rooted here and continue here. And if this sustainability is needed, definitely they have really to spend resources and time with universities in order to create the future generation in order to help the country to aspire. I think there are so many things in the employers they can win by joining universities. It's not just only they are doing it as part of social responsibility, which everyone has to do it, but there are wins and KPIs could be met if they join the universities when it comes to training, innovation, and what have you.
Yes, thank you very much for that. And Dr. Sabih, if I can ask you for your closing thoughts, and given that you come more and you're deeply rooted in industry, what's your advice to the HR directors, or if you like, the talent management acquisition managers within organizations about how they should engage with the educational professional organizations?
Thank you very much. Basically, I'm going to talk my experience, as you said, in the civil industry, and what I'm going to say it's applicable to employer in this part of the world, because the Western employers, they're already doing what I'm going to say. Employers has to invest in the training and development of their people. Without developing your people, you not have people agile, flexible, and can deal with any circumstances. This has already been done in the Western world. You have training budget, but unfortunately here, because of the margin are so small, both as a consultant and as a contractor, and the first things when you have to cut on budget, it's on training, which is basically, that's the worst thing you do, because you're not going to have people who can deal and be able to cope with any future circumstances. And also in the West, they have the collaboration between the industry and the universities, and there are PhDs, master degrees, and other done in collaboration with universities. And a lot of PhDs is basically done based on the need of the client and the need of the employer, and he do it in collaboration with the university. And basically both parties benefit and the society benefit from it. This is applicable to individuals as well. My advice is to people who are not professionally qualified, think again. If you get your professional qualification, you definitely will have the edge on other people who are not professionally qualified, because one, it's train you and give you the the skills you need to become a flexible engineer, and also you can deal with all what can be difficult for others.
Thank you very much. I want to, it's 10:55, we have 5 minutes to close, and I'd just like to share some closing thoughts. Firstly, it's been both an honor and a pleasure for me to have personally helped co-moderate this session. I've learned a lot from our four distinguished panelists. I think the future discussion is quite exciting. You know, there's a lot of change to come, a lot of very, very nice thoughts that have been shared today. And I think for professional organizations such as the ICE that Dr. Sabih represents, the Energy Institute, which myself and Trevor and Piotr and Shahda represent, and also the Emirati Engineers Abroad also, and these kind of organizations which are pushing towards professional development. I think that there needs to be greater collaboration, definitely, and I think we're going to need to develop good futures for a young generation which is up and running, based on innovation, based on looking at all these new things that are coming up. So with that, from me personally, I just want to really thank from the bottom of my heart, you know, personally, all the panelists for being with us here today. It really has been an absolute a pleasure and honor for me to have co-moderated this. I'd like to now pass on to Dr. Ghanem to give his closing thoughts and pass on back to Piotr. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Tafadhal, Dr. Ghanem.
Thank you, Saeed, Dr. Waddah. Really, on personal level, I want to really thank everybody who participated. Personally, I learned a lot today. And the beauty of engineering, it is the dynamic and the collective aspect of it. Today we have been witness different opinion from people from academia, industrial, PhD students, from NGOs. And this is the beauty of engineering, that it can occupy all the people, and it can provide the solution for the community. So again, I really want to thank all the professors, doctors, and all the engineers who have been participating. Thanks for everybody for an institute, and I really enjoy it. And thanks, Dr. Waddah, on the moderation, and I will hand it to Peter. And thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
رمضان كريم رمضان كريم للجميع.
الله يحفظكم الله يحفظكم.
تسلموا شكرا جزيلا.
شكرا جزيلا شكرا جزيلا.
Just to finish off, yeah, from the YPN side again, I would like to thank very much our moderators, Dr. Waddah and Dr. Ghanem, for leading this fascinating debate with a really great panel of speakers. I hope the attendees also share the view that it's provided us a whole new interesting perspective on the talent and competency development, particularly in the post-COVID world and future in more general. So I'd like to close off by encouraging everybody who's still with us on the line to well, maybe go to our website, the Energy Institute Young Professionals Network, and learn about all the different ways how we can help you develop as successful professionals in the energy industry. Feel free to reach out to us, either to our Middle East mailing email address now displayed on the slide, or to myself or Shahda personally. If you're looking for ways to get involved. I would also like to encourage you to look at the Emirati Engineers Abroad organization that Ahmed has presented at the beginning of this session. And stay tuned. We're really very much hoping to have you join our future webinars and hopefully some in-person events in the near future. So again, thank you very much.
Ms. Biot, are you working with the World Green Economy Organization, WGO?
The World
Green Economy Organization.
We are not working with them yet.
Good, because it's just started 2016 and now it's becoming global and headquarters in Dubai. So I think it's good to work with them.
That's a great tip. We'll definitely explore that.
Yeah, I'd just like to say on behalf of the Energy Institute as a whole, thank you to all the participants that have joined us tonight, and particularly the panelists and the moderators. Two things come out of it for me is collaboration and think out of the box. Let's not all go along the way we've all been thinking. As someone said, sometimes the disaster can become an opportunity. Let's look at this situation as an opportunity for changing the way we all think. And it doesn't matter whether you're a person like myself or a person at the very beginning of your career as a young professional. I think we can all do that. And I think thinking out of the box and collaborating between organizations, between universities, between the ICE, between the EI, between the EEA, etc., etc. The Energy Institute loves collaboration, so we'll be very much behind that. And thank you very much to all of you, and thank you for all the people who joined us to listen. Thank you from me.
Great.
Thank you
very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
مع السلامة.
مع السلامة.